So, Three Shots and a Dot is a cricket podcast, but cricket has probably been the hardest thing to watch in recent times after South Africa's pretty nasty loss in the World Cup final. Now, there's been a ton of cricket that's been going on, and we've all found ourselves watching bits and bobs here and there. The LPL final ended with Jaffna winning against Gaul Marvels. Riley Rousseau absolutely smashed it there. 106 not out in that final. Belligerent, absolutely majestic in that innings. The World Championship of Legends also went on recently. A lot of fairly unknown players, but then some real legends involved. Some young players who probably played a lot of cricket last year also succeeding. And India ultimately beat Pakistan in that final with Ambati Raidu scoring a 50. Now, the Major League Cricket season is almost at its climax. The final will be coming up pretty soon. The eliminator takes place tomorrow with the Texas Super Kings taking on MI New York. Of course, Faf du Plessis is absolutely smashing it there. 303 runs thus far. On the wicket-taking side, Oracle Maestro Saurabh Netravalkar has really been killing it. 12 wickets thus far at an average just over 12. Now, it's been pretty hard to watch cricket, but we've all kind of delved a bit into it with the England and West Indies series going on as well, and we'll get to that, plus South Africa, West Indies, and a little bit more in this episode.
Yeah, I think we spoke in the last one that it's going to take a while to watch cricket because of that World Cup hangover. South Africa, disappointing everyone. Um, but I tried to watch cricket and I haven't succeeded, to be honest, because it's back to the bullshit that we didn't want before the World Cup. So if you think about that LPL final that you're talking about, if you just look at the games that were happening, every other game was 180 plus scores being chased. Teams were four down in the power play, and then your number six, seven, and eights are coming in. I think Isu Dana, I think I saw made a couple of 50s in that. I mean, what
No ball.
is that? Then you come to World Championship of
Yeah.
Legends. Very
Yeah.
nice initiative. Good to see, the old guards come out and play. Nice to see them. But there was an obvious flaw there because if you had someone that was recently retired, 36, 38, they came out and they made big scores. They took the bowling apart.
Yeah.
So if I watched a few games and it was a bit of a joke. If you look at the Pakistan team, Shoaib Malik is 40 plus, but he basically recently retired. Shoaib Maqsood, and I think who was the
I
other
think
number?
Wab Riaz is up there as well.
Well,
Yeah.
Riaz was there, but there's another number. Shoaib Maqsood, I think, came in number 3. The other opening batsman, Kamran Akmal, also like in his 30s, 36 or 38. Um,
Mm.
and there was an obvious flaw. So the same thing with the Australian team. Dan Christian, I think he's still playing Big Bash like last year. Ben Cutting still playing Big Bash, and the other guy Ben Dunk. Again, we've seen him in the domestic circuit very recently. I think he played in the PSL as well as the BBL not too long ago. So obvious flaw. There was the one game I remember watching where they played the West Indies and they went on to make like 270 or something like that. Ben Cutting made 100 of, let's call it, 30 something balls, and then it was up to Dan Christian now to go and make it in 30 something balls minus one. And I think he just didn't make it. Like right at the end, he got caught or something like that. But I mean, when you're playing cricket like that, there's an obvious flaw. Nevertheless, it was
Mm.
cool to see them come
Yeah.
out and play. But the sad part was that who you really wanted to see in this tournament, like for example, Chuck Cullis, the real the real legend.
Yuvraj. Mm.
Yeah, Yuvraj, I think he had one innings, but again, yeah, someone like Yuvraj, the real legends, unfortunately, they 40 plus, pushing on 50s maybe perhaps, and
Mm.
you could see that it was harder for them against the younger. What is it? Pawan Negi, I think the India brought there.
Mm.
Uh, Basically retired like
Yeah,
the other
there were a
day.
few. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gurkirat Man Singh and the likes. They were definitely a few.
Well, how the
Nathan
fuck
Yeah.
is
Coulter now.
Gurkirat Man Singh a legend?
Yeah, I think they missed that part of the whole thing. The biggest thing with organizing a World Championship of Legends, surely the players have to actually be legends. There were so many
No.
players
Yeah.
that barely played the game for their countries in that tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, like even the South African performance towards the end, what's that? Johan Sneeman, Sarel Erwia.
Oh,
God.
Yeah,
that is the best one. I remember watching that match, and so
Come
they were
on.
chasing. The Pakistan batted. Pakistan made about 200 and
Mm.
something, and South Africa were chasing. And then Chiksar Arabia come in, and one wicket down, they chase a score in 18 overs, just hitting sixes all over the place.
Yeah, but I get you. You're right. I mean, it's a nice initiative. I think if they want to continue moving forward, I think they just need to have stricter, let's call it qualification criteria
Mhm.
on the players.
yeah,
And even if you have to bring in the boundaries, shorten the length of the game, just to make it easier for the old guns, because people
Mm.
are going to watch it
yeah,
for the legends, not for these unknowns scoring 100, not for the people who
yeah.
you never watch playing for their national countries, who you don't get excited
Exactly.
for.
No,
You'll
and
get excited to see Irfan Pathan bowl to Jacques Kallis, even if he's bowling 100 and he's trying his best, 100
Exactly.
kilometers per hour. But you get my point.
you spot on there. And
So,
another thing that you may have touched on is when we watch a game like that, we want to see Jack Hullis play that cover drive that looks, so muscular. Unfortunately, I saw him play one that went for four, but it wasn't good enough because there were people like Dan Christian just flicking the ball for six. So in a
Yeah.
game like this, you want to appreciate the Neil McKenzie innings and the Jack Hullis innings, but unfortunately, you have to have stricter criteria so that you can just
mm,
get that.
To be fair, I
mm,
think there was a bit of a misread of the brief from a few countries. A lot of countries saw it the way we think it should be. Bring your legends, your actual legends. And as the tournament progressed, they realized, oopsie daisy, people are trying to win
yeah,
this thing now. Yeah. We can't play
yeah,
50-year-olds here. We actually have to play
yeah.
our
Like
35-year-olds that just
you get
retired.
in Mackay and Tini get smashed for 50 of 3 overs. So
He stopped bowling at the end. They left him out the side towards the end.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I
But
mean,
that's what you want to see. You want to see them bowling. It would be interesting to
exactly.
find out what was the motivation for the tournament. I mean, like, did they expect to bring in a lot of money, or what was the
In recent times, we had the Champions Series that had gone to the USA and Canada, where there were just two sides. There was almost like a north-south kind of thing, where a lot of the
mm,
old players played Sehwag, Tendulkar, your Cullises, Matthew Hayden, and the likes. And I think it did quite well in terms of the local support, because a lot of people that live up there are people that immigrated from India or Pakistan. They would have seen these guys play in their prime. And I think if they kept it on the same note, like there were players like Brian Lara playing in those things, and now they kind of shifted back. But if they go back to that, I think it's a fairly fun tournament to watch because you're going to watch it, as you say, to see those
yeah,
guys
exactly.
again. Just let them have a laugh, man. Let them make
Mm,
120 overs. It's going to be funny to see someone try and hit a six and pop the ball straight up in the air and then laugh about it. Like,
yeah.
sure.
Mm. Now, if it comes to
yeah,
that, that'll be much more entertaining than what it was. Because, like
yeah.
you're saying, then teams were playing to win, and then not necessarily playing their legends, but playing their strongest team.
Exactly. It's
So
literally the battle of the fittest. That's what it came
yeah,
down to. Because look, some players they had been on the Bri or Barbie, if you could call it that, for a while. Like if you look at
mm,
Makai Tini, kudos to him. He's enjoying life. Yeah, you bring him
yeah.
into a tournament like this against a very fit Shoaib Malik. There's only one outcome. It's always
Mm.
going to end one way.
And Mackay and
Yeah,
Tini's
but
bowling action, yeah, it takes a lot of energy.
yeah, there's a lot of sideways movement in the run up.
Yeah,
Like
no, but
it
it's
was a
good.
joke because I remember the one game I was watching, Tando and Tini took a catch, and how the
Yo.
does that happen now? 20 something year
Yeah.
What?
old. Yeah. Mackay sent his son to
Did,
field.
I definitely missed this. But what a lol.
Um,
Tanvantini is literally like 23 or 24.
yeah, no, exactly. And then he's wearing a teeny shirt, whatever. But that's what you want to see, funny things like that, right? We don't care about
Yes, I
200
mean,
plus.
that's what the tournament is there
You
for.
wanna see like Makaya bowling and then going off the field and then Tando coming to field with his jersey and then
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally,
yeah.
it's for me exactly that. It's all about the lols, the jokes, the bands, just bring them back. Let them play cricket the honest way, like Sangha played in a village side that we saw in the UK.
Mm.
Like that's what you want to
Mm.
see, man.
Yeah, just going back to your point of us having a hangover and in watching cricket and stuff. I think we as fans had a bigger hangover than the players because there were a
Yeah.
bunch of South Africans that went on straight after the World Cup into the MLC, into the LPL. So they moved on with their lives. They pocketed some cash. So let's see what happens next. So I personally also haven't watched a lot of cricket. I've been following on scorecards, ESPN Cricket Info, looking at the odd set of highlights here and there. But yeah, it has nothing to get me off my chair, like you're saying. Chasing 180 nowadays, it's boring.
Yeah. No, 100%. But
Mm,
yeah, LPL, the organizers look like they are having a bit of trouble. Not a lot of people are watching that tournament. The sponsors are also sort of shirking away there. I don't think that's going to survive for too much longer. They've been trying for some years now, and unfortunately, with the competition of the IPL and the PSL and the MLC and the SA20, there's too many tournaments. In fact, the MLC ends in like 4 days, and then the next day, the global T20 Canada starts. So that is an absolute madness, and it's going to keep going on.
Let's
Cool.
not
Have you
forget the
been?
Vitality T20 Blast and the hundreds going on at the moment as well.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes.
So
mm, mm, mm.
100%. The 100 starts
started
soon. I don't
already.
know.
I think we're in game day 2 or 3, I believe. I didn't look much at scores, but I saw on Quick Info earlier that yeah, the
Yeah, it's,
hundreds
it's a
happening.
bit chaotic because there is some international cricket going on at the same time now. India are going to be touring
Mm.
Sri Lanka very soon. South Africa tour West Indies very soon. West Indies are currently playing England in the Test series as well. And then there's a few smaller series going on. Namibia are playing Scotland, I think. Ireland are playing Zimbabwe in
Mm.
a one-off test. So there's a bit going on, and I don't know, it's becoming a bit chaotic. We spoke about this in the past. T20 franchise
Mm.
cricket, yeah, is it going to devalue international cricket? And I don't know, it might just, unless cricket boards stick to their morals and values, so to say, and like England have done in the past, prevented players from
Mm.
playing in T20 series because call them up for international side. Now England are currently taking on West Indies. That series is already won, the Test series. I mean, a Test series in England is always a good time. I feel like the fans really back Test cricket there, and that's why it works really well. And the first Test in Lords, I thought to myself, and I remember saying something along the lines in the previous episode, I thought West Indies actually do quite well with this very test focused side. Got absolutely smashed. I don't think they picked the conditions very well. They started off a bit shabbily and then found some sort of way in the middle of the innings. Kevin Hodge stabilizing things a bit there. And then Gus Atkinson overshone our guy, Jimmy Anderson. 12 wickets on test debut. Absolutely blasted through that West Indies lineup. And they won in 3 days. And I think we said this in the past as well, but test cricket lasting 3 days, not good enough. The second test then, and they played a bit better, but then crumbled yet again and lost on day
The
four.
last day. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's 3 out of 4 innings that they've been bowled out for under 150. That's just not good enough for Test cricket,
Mm,
especially for a team who are saying that they are going more Test cricket centric with their team
yeah,
selection. Um, yeah, but they were just steamrolled. Even in the second Test, you would say up until the start of the last innings, they were in with a chance. Because we were
yeah,
actually saying offline that why are England batting so long in the third innings? Like, why don't they
yeah.
just declare? And it was just a case of we don't know. We don't know what West Indies is going to rock up. Is it going to be the one that we bowled out for under 450, for under 150, or the one that just scored over 400? So it was
Mm,
impossible to tell. And I think the one thing with England cricket, with the way that they're going with the spares ball, that's what happens. Like we were on day 4 and the start of the last innings, and there was more than enough time for a team, not necessarily West Indies, but any team to score 300 plus. So the risk that you have with betting so fast and scoring 400 in one day is that the other team then has so much time left in the test match, and then you just don't know what to do. It's a whole new ball game with the way that they're playing at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was also disappointed, BoiMaam, with the fact that they came out with this new test team, and we're going to be a bit more
Mm.
test focused. There's none of the big hitters in there. And then they failed. And then they gave us a bit of hope in the second test where, they went on to make 400 plus in their batting innings, and it just rose some eyebrows. Like Kuv is saying, England didn't know what to do now when they were batting, because
Yeah.
normally in your head, if you have a lead of 300, 320 to be on the safe side, you should bowl a team out. Um, Wicket
Mm.
looked better, too much time left, absolutely. And then West Indies became West Indies again in that fourth innings.
Yeah.
They just
Why?
lost the plot, and I think this is what we've been going on about this. I said I'll take West Indies
Mm.
any day to play South Africa because of the same reason. They have the
Mm.
ability to chase down 215 overs, but that mentality there also gets them bowled out for 100, in 10 overs. But again, I thought that was the T20 team and the ODI team, and this team looked very different. Um, yeah, I was just sad to see that they didn't give it much
But
thought.
they do have a player in there in Josh De Silva. I think he's been one of the
Quite
constant
solid.
performance over the last
Yeah.
year and a half in their
Mm-hmm.
test team. He's always been reliable. He bets down the order. So maybe they should give him a spot in the top four and see what he does.
Yeah.
Just the Silva, I'm sorry, but it always catches me by shock, sheer shock. When he gets into an interview, you're expecting, "G'day, mate," but he comes out and he's as trini as it gets.
Yeah.
He comes out with the thickest accent ever. I think he has a Canadian mother and a dad that probably lived a long time in West Indies, because he's also a white guy. So not sure how that happened, but as you say, Josh has been quite good. He was quite resilient in that second test. Unfortunately, Shamar Joseph didn't take his advice. Close to the end of Shamar Joseph getting out, there's this very funny scene of Josh De Silva telling him, "Get behind the ball, play the ball. Stop hoiking, get behind the ball." Next ball, steps outside the leg stump, gives himself room, tries to swing, misses, all ends up. The following ball, he gets behind the line after Josh tells him, "No, please do this." And he top edges one straight up into the air. It's the funniest thing ever, watching that whole thing unfold. The big thing is, I don't know how West Indies cricket actually moves forward. Because if you've looked at their Test cricket history over the recent past, they've had multiple issues, a lot of them being financial. And then they've had this in and out kind of thing with the bigger players, if you could call them that, being in the side, then for financial reasons, popping out to go and play in T20 franchise tournaments, like we've said, and they brought in younger players. Now they've stabilized a bit. They found in an actual Test team, but it seems like there is a greater force that is preventing them from playing good Test cricket. There isn't really any, from my perspective at least, there isn't really any tactical nous. There needs to be something that comes from the coaching, I would think, that pushes them back towards that proper Test cricketing past. I mean, they come from a very good Test cricketing history. They played
Mm.
possibly some of the best Test cricket that the world has seen in the past. They've been renowned for being a very good Test side. And watching the England West Indies series now, I think the biggest miss for me is they just don't have a very good Test bowling lineup. A lot of their players, excellent bowlers. I'll give Joseph and Shamar Joseph their kudos. Jason Holt is a decent all rounder, but in Test cricket, at times it looks like they can't buy a wicket. And that seems to be the biggest thing, because as much as we're saying they haven't scored well, they let England make 400 in every innings basically thus far.
So,
Mm.
On an
this
English on
is
English wickets.
slightly off topic, but it's relating to the same thing, right? We've been talking about the death of Test cricket for some time. If you look around the world and think about Test cricket, where's the most popular venues, or where's the most highly supported Test cricket? It's probably going to be England, then maybe Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, of
India.
course.
Yeah.
Maybe to a certain extent Pakistan, Sri Lanka, but right at the bottom of that list is West Indies, unfortunately. And the biggest stars in West Indies and the most popular guys that play cricket are the T20 guys. Because that they even struggle to put a team together for 50 over format. And I think it's the
Mm.
death of Test cricket, because if you tell me tomorrow that there's going to be a Test series happening in the Caribbean, it's not going to attract crowds unless
Yeah.
something crazy happens, some big star is there that's bringing crowds. But any game at Lords, England, even England
Hmm.
B or C, playing India
Back to
B,
us.
and people are there out in their suits, sold out crowd, singing Sweet Caroline. Um, you know, could this be the first country that goes down? I don't know. So yeah, slightly off topic, but within the same
Mm.
channel.
I would argue it's a perfect time for them to then just rekindle what real Test cricket is. They should just grind out performances, bat at sub 3 run rates, at least make a game of it, at least take it to the fifth and final day. So if you're not pulling crowds, at least not pull a crowd for 5 days rather than 3 days. So, but you get what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
Ah,
they're in prime position to just
yeah.
go back to basics. So
Yeah, no, 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 I hear you. So, they're at a tough spot where all forms of cricket are suffering. West Indies isn't the force that they used to be. And yeah, I mean, the best way
Hmm.
to approach this is just go back to basics and start
mm,
irritating your opposition. A draw is better than a loss.
I'm not particularly well versed in West Indian domestic cricket. And I would wonder if a lot of what we're seeing is a symptom of the
Yeah,
failings there.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And likewise, with South Africa taking on West Indies soon, we're seeing a similar thing with us. For a long time, 4-day cricket in South Africa hasn't done well. At times, you can get in for free because it just doesn't draw crowds. But I think South Africa might be going through a little bit of a cricket resurgence in recent times, and I think the SA20 is a big part of that. And it's mainly because people are starting to take ownership of their local teams now. The fans are feeling a sense of attachment to their local franchises, and likewise, it draws them into going to the other formats because they start picking favorite players and they become fans of cricket again.
Hey, wait, hold up, hold up. We forgot about the elephant in the room, the falling of the old guard, Jimmy Anderson. Um, yeah, I mean, when did he make his
Yeah,
debut? 21 years ago. And to be a fast bowler, 700 plus test wickets, fast bowler at 41.
yeah.
Um, and the way he said it, like, like he doesn't want to retire, but, kind of has to right now because, uh, yeah, I just think it's something special.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy's had an exceptional career. I'm just going to read out his test stats for you. He's 704 wickets in 188 matches, 350 innings, a strike rate eventually of 56.8 at an average of 26.45. And his longevity is absolutely remarkable. 40,037 balls bowled in an exceptional career that some would argue leaves him being the best ever pace bowler in Test cricket.
I'm not part of some.
Okay, okay, the South African
Okay.
argument coming through here
Yeah,
now.
no, listen, he's great. I mean, I applaud his longevity.
Mm.
Um, it's great to do what he's doing at 41 years of old. Well, 41 years old. But is he really a bowler that batting lineups are scared of over the years? I personally don't think he's one of the greats. He's done well. I'm not saying that. But my opinion is that he's done well in a game of probability. You play more test matches, you bowl more balls, you take more wickets. I saw a stat that in the last 10 years, England have played 30 more test matches than any other country.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dale
crazy.
Steyn played half the number of test matches he played. He had a strike
Yeah, it's
rate
absolutely ridiculous.
much lower than he had a strike rate of like 42 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's
His
Sen did take
average was
ridiculous.
like
400 wickets, right?
22.
Sen,
Yeah,
Sen
he's
clocked 400.
Yeah,
489 or
Yeah,
something.
exactly. Yeah. Shit.
So
Yeah.
so I'm not taking away anything from him, but I'm just saying you play more games, you get more chances, you take more
So
wickets.
valid.
And
I
he's
hear you
just done
loud and
it
clear.
for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So his body allowed him to do it. Some would argue that he's become a little bit more lethal over time.
Mm, mm.
Um, but point being, I mean, 700 wickets in 188 Test matches is good. But going back to the law of probability, why do spinners take more wickets in Test matches?
Because you
Because they
bowl
bowl
more.
more overs and they
Yeah.
have more chances. So it's a similar argument for Jimmy Anderson versus other great fast bowlers. Glenn McGrath, Wasim Akram, Curtly Ambrose. Is he really better than all of those?
Yeah,
They'll stay.
that is a
Stuart Broad
massive thing.
is
And
No,
Stuart Broad is not
I,
far behind
I
him.
also hear you
So
loud and clear.
exactly.
So two things here, right? We have to give a credit to Stuart Broad as well, because if you think about English Test cricket over the recent past, for a very long period, it was that bowling partnership of Jimmy Anderson and Stuart
Yeah,
Broad.
yeah.
But what you're touching on there is also that classical Tendulkar comparison. Who competes with Tendulkar? Because he made his debut at such a young age. He played so much of cricket. You could also
mm,
argue that he played in an era where Test cricket and ODI dominated. Now,
Mm.
not taking anything away from him, but how does, Kohli overtake him as an example in terms of his stats? It's because he's played 400 plus matches, and no one's going to ever get to play that. Uh,
Yeah.
Same thing, I
The
guess.
the sheer volume. Yeah.
Hmm.
The sheer volume. There isn't enough Test cricket anyway. As we just said, countries aren't playing as much Test cricket anymore. And yeah, I looked at you a bit funny when you started that because I'm like, you said you don't see him as one of the greats, but let's be honest. Apart from the longevity, okay, he can swing a Duke both ways. Give him a Kookaburra and things look a little bit different. He has done most of his damage in England and he's done it very well. But some could argue that conditions favor exactly that.
Hmm.
And fair enough, you have to give him all the credit in the world for
no,
doing it
I
consistently,
do.
consistently for that long.
Mm.
The biggest flaw with Stain, and we love Stain here, South African cricket fans and a lot of cricket fans around the world will tell you that Stain is probably one of the best, if not the best, based on that strike rate alone. But Stain had problems with injuries over the years, back problems, shoulder problems. Everything gave out towards the end. Jimmy did it for a lot longer, and he did it at a lot later in his career, even. But
Yeah,
that
he's
average
basically
and
the
strike
cricket.
rates.
He's basically the cricket equivalent of James Milner.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I'll
yeah,
say.
yeah.
I mean, fair enough. Yeah, I was actually thinking about it along similar lines the other day. I'm like, like I was thinking about Cristiano Ronaldo and how it compares to James Anderson. Okay, Ronaldo is going down a very sad path, dying off now, blah blah blah, crying and making scenes, and he's played for a long time, and he's got a lot of goals, and that's what I was thinking about it. The most goals ever in most situations. International football has got the most goals. He just played a lot more games. Um, Jimmy's probably in a similar situation, and that's not to discredit him. He's
Hmm.
put himself in that
Listen,
situation by being
he's
available.
taken good care of his body. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
put himself in the situation to be part of the conversation. And that's all down
And,
to him.
and the
So
one thing I will give him is he seems like a really decent bloke. Like listening to him in interviews, it's surprising. It's refreshingly surprising because look, South Africans can be cocky, but the Aussies and the Poms have always been at the top
Hmm.
of the lot. And Jimmy doesn't come across that way. He's not one of the posh kids. He spoke in an interview somewhere during one of the session breaks in that West Indies England series, and he was saying like there's not enough being he's advocating for cricket to be pushed more into state schools in England because he was in a state school in Burnley himself, and he said very plainly most of the side that are playing now went to private schools. They were given all the opportunities from a very young age. His father had a friend that brought him into cricket, and if it wasn't for that he would have never played, and there would have been 704 less wickets taken by one bowler in the world. Now, you alluded to the other stuff. Glenn McGrath, Walker Yunus, Wasim Akram. I think if we had to put it flat out in a comparison, I'd probably give them the edge all day long. They did it across different countries, they did it at a more rapid rate. And the thing that you guys said earlier on, who would you fear more
I
if
was
you had to
just
come
gonna
up against
say,
them?
if Stain's bowling against you,
Yeah.
I would just, walk away. Like, it's yours. Go for it, But if
I'll
Jimmy
teach him how to
Anderson's there,
bowl.
it's like my friend, like a friendly face, such a nice bloke, I'm gonna, yeah. Who would you try and hit for a
You,
six? Whose Yorker would you try and dig out? Let me ask you that question. Probably go and
to
take.
put it bluntly, bluntly, if you saw Stain forehead vein popping running into you, you're probably going to be shitting bricks.
Exactly.
Jimmy Anderson,
Stain
as
bowls your
angry as he could
bouncer, you
get,
don't
yo,
fuck around. But if Jimmy Anderson bowls your bouncer, you hook that thing. But yeah, I mean that's just yeah.
Yeah, but we'll come back to why we started talking about it. Kudos to him. Congratulations to him on a
100%.
wonderful career. Been and I think if there is any fast bowler in the world or young and upcoming fast bowler, excellent role model. The guy
Mm.
he's done it well, and he's shown the way forward for fast bowlers to carry out their careers. Done it amicably, done it at the top level for a long time, and done really well. And as much as we're comparing him to all the other bowlers, I don't think it takes anything away from the fact that he was a fantastic bowler. Plain down.
No,
704
100%.
wickets, you can't argue with that. Now,
100%.
now the sad thing for him is on that day he retired, he was outshone, as I said in the introduction, by Gus Atkinson, who does not swing a ball nearly as much as Jimmy, but 12 wickets on Test debut, the fourth highest ever in a Test debut, and he absolutely rattled through that West Indian lineup. 8 in the first innings, and then the 7 in the first innings, to correct myself there, 5 in the second innings. But I don't think he did anything massively wild. There were a lot of wickets that were sold, so to say. Some poor shot selection and kind of throwing the wickets away. And we'll come back to what we were talking about earlier. West Indies find themselves in a bit of a weird place with this test side, but they're going to come up against a test side that finds themselves in an equally weird place, and that is our own South Africa. So that South African West Indies series is starting on the 7th of August. Two teams that find themselves at the bottom of the World Test Championship. South Africa's only played 4 tests in a time that England and Australia have played something like 13, and I think India have played 9. West Indies now have played 6 with the 2 against England. But both test teams find themselves in a place where they really need to find themselves. And I'm just wondering what happens with the Proteas in our first bit of international cricket post the World Cup.
Yeah. So South Africa's previous test series, we all know that's a write-off. One against New Zealand. It's a complete write-off. So I know they've released the squad. It's it's the best squad that we have to choose from, I guess. And it also goes back to our grassroots discussions. I don't think we're churning out enough quality cricketers
Look,
at a
I have
first class level.
I have a
Hmm.
little bit of an argument to that, and it's not based on the whole squad selection, but it's the inclusion of Dane Peets and Dane Patterson. I, for the life of me, do not understand what on earth are we doing by taking a 34-year-old in Pete and a 35-year-old in Patterson to fill 2 spots in a squad that you are supposedly trying to build a side with. Okay, Temba Buvuma's
No,
come back as
100%.
captain. Cool. But I was looking at some first class stats just very barely. Because I was thinking about Otniel Bartman in the World Cup and how a lot of people, including us, think that he probably will make a decent test bowler based on the style, the way he bowls.
Mhm.
He bowls a natural test line pretty well. And he gets a fair bit of shape on the ball, right? Bayer Swanepoel has 27 wickets in the last season of the South African first class Group 1 series, because now it's divided into 2 groups. Cool. Dane Patterson is absolutely, his stats compared to Bayer Swanepoel absolutely shockingly. He's got an average of like 33 with a strike rate of close to 60. And at 35, you still feel the need to bring him into the test side again. I get that he played well
Mhm.
against New Zealand in that series you said we should write off. Why are we doing this? Why
Doesn't
not
matter.
give younger
I
players a shout?
pers I personally think that the selectors feel that this is not the time to introduce new blood into the squad purely because at this point versus the West Indies, nothing but 2 wins are going to suffice. They've got to win both games. They've
No,
got to
they
get
do.
South
I
African
agree with
tests.
that.
They've got to get South African Test cricket back on track. I also don't understand why it's a 16-man squad. So I don't think either of them are going to play. So if you're going to just take people for the ride and not really expose them, let's just take 2 passengers for this series. And when we get
Fair
back and
enough.
we're on track,
I mean, on that,
introduce young blood when things are kind of going right, not when we're just coming out of this New Zealand series where everything is a shit show. That's just my feeling.
no, I agree with you to some extent, but it's the same thing that I said with Deval Brevis in the past. If you're going to take passengers that will gain something from the experience. Take a
Yeah,
young
fair.
player that gets the feel of international cricket. He doesn't have to play, but he has to be there to
Mm,
see what goes on outside of the pitch for 2 weeks or three
mm,
weeks. And I think that aids them because the next time they go into a series, then you're not throwing them in the deep end
mm.
immediately. You're saying
Yeah, but
you know what
it's
an
a
international
septic
series
time
is
to
like.
be it's a septic time to be part of the squad after the World Cup loss, after the New Zealand series, going into a series that you are expected to win.
No,
So you just say worst case scenario, South Africa lose the series. You'd
yeah,
rather
it'll
have
be part of that.
Dane Patterson in that squad or in that breadth than new blood coming. You don't want to say, oh, it's because the new
Mm.
blood was there that they lost the series that they should have won.
No, I can
That's
agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and from my side, I agree, Kuv. I think that you know, they either not taking this seriously because it doesn't look like this is a future growth plan, so they just want to get the series out the way, or try and get 2 wins, or if they lose, have a scapegoat, Temba Bavuma, or we brought in some older players. But I also think that they're probably not taking it as serious as they want to because this is the building opportunity. This is the time you give your youngsters a chance, and this is the time that we take things to the next level, even if it's West Indies.
I think to be honest, we shouldn't be seeing things as even if it's just West Indies because as crap as their Test cricket has been in recent times, we're not exactly at the peak of our powers anymore. If you look at the South African Test side over the last 5 years, fair enough. We as South African fans, having watched South African cricket, have this level of expectation that honestly is slightly unrealistic with what we have in our stocks. There's no Hashim Amla, there's no Jack Harless, there's no Dale Steyn, there's no Philander. We don't have the same power anymore, but we expect a similar thing. And we see ourselves in the same light. I think just personally, I think we give South African Test cricket more credit than it deserves. Recently,
mm,
at least. And I think we actually aren't in a great place because there's a lot of new players that are coming into the side. Fair enough, right? But Dean Elgar's gone now. He was a little bit of a rock in that side. You've got Bavuma, Markram, who we give him all the credit in the world, but he isn't great in Test cricket, and he hasn't been for some time. Quinton de Kock, gone now. You got Kyle Verena that performed well locally, but hasn't performed on the South African stage. Then you've got a very young group of bowlers. You've got Nandre Berger, Gerald Kutsia, Lungi Ngidi is on and off, and now he's back in the side. KG might be the only one there. It is pretty much a Test cricket side that is an unknown quality. So I don't know. I
mm,
think we need to take it as seriously as we can because we need to like stamp our authority again, put ourselves back
mm.
at the top of Test cricket. We lie seventh in the World Test Championship, having lost three of the four matches we
Exactly.
played. And I get that we went to New Zealand with a second string or even eighth string side, if you could call it that, because half of those guys that'll be the only game they play for South Africa ever. But come on, you're one of the best. We have a staff. Graham
Mm,
Smith carried that thing. We were the best Test cricket side in the world over a period of more than a year
Hmm.
in the recent
mm,
past. We need to go back there. We need to be aiming to that again.
mm. I think I think the key for any successful cricketing nation, and this rolls back the years, rolls back across formats, is that the core of your team needs to be an all format team.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
six of your
Hmm.
players need to be players that you play throughout T20s, ODIs, and Test cricket.
Yeah.
And in the past, that's what it's been. Even with South African cricket,
Mm.
even with India, Australia, England, the heart and spine of the team is the same throughout all three formats. Which players in the South African team do we see as all format players? I'd say Stubbs, KG, who else?
Keshav maybe,
Those are
but
the first
I
two
get
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah,
No, you're
Cash.
spot on.
Yeah, but
When T20 and shorter format became a thing, the core of your teams was still, your big names were still there. Your Fafs were still there. De Villiers was still there, as an example. And even if we turn our attention to that Indian cricket side, which, reigns supreme, Rohit Sharma's always there. Virat Kohli's always there. Bumrah's always there. You know what I
mm,
mean? You need that, and that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think we have that now because to me, if I
No, we
look at
don't.
our ODI squad or the best South African squad, sadly enough, it was that T20 side. and there's a lot of T20
Yeah.
firepower in there.
Yeah.
But try and take that team and adapt it to the longer format, and we got a problem because, as you're saying, there's only about three names that we can bring across, three or four
Mm.
names.
And I think it's part of the reason why, and a lot of people find a lot of flaws in Tristan Stubbs' game, but it's part of the reason why CSA are pushing so hard or putting so much of their stock in Tristan Stubbs, because he's the one player that seems like he's going to carry things across all three formats at the moment. I mean,
Exactly.
you would love Henrik Klaassen to be an amazing Test cricketer, but he's not going to be. That's just fair fact.
And he's past his
He's
test
past prime,
time,
yeah.
can we call it?
Yeah. I agree. I think we might get into a nice space if we can find some form from Vian Mulder. I'm just thinking about it in my head, but Vian Mulder has been almost as it frustrates me because he has so much in his game and he's shown it locally and in domestic series, the SA20. He can be a great all format player. Just hasn't come to
I
fruition.
also, I think,
And then Rickleton.
yeah,
Rickleton, I
yeah.
think, would be the next one.
Yeah, no, I think Rickleton is one. I think he's next in line for his shot across all three
Mm.
formats. If he has a good series against West Indies on the back of a good MLC and with the cock retiring, I think he can definitely be that all format opener that we need.
Mm.
I think if the bowling attack is nurtured with Nandre Berger and Gerald Coetzee, they together with KG could form quite a deadly fast bowling attack for the next 5 years. So there is hope. It's the batting. It's the middle order batting
I
that is a
think
problem. So
my only proper worry with very good young fast bowlers, fair enough, but no one can really swing a ball there. That's the biggest problem. It'll do well in T20 and ODI cricket, but Test cricket is a worry. I don't know. You guys, when last have you seen a young South African fast bowler swing the ball at pace?
Yeah, I got you.
KG gets movement off the pitch. It's been something that's irked me for a long time. Like somehow, and I don't think it's just us. I think it's a syndrome across the world. They are out and out pace is respected a lot more than a guy like, as we said, Jimmy Anderson that can really swing a ball. And to be fair, Test cricket, Vernon Philando was bowling 130 max for a long time, but he was vicious. Late
Yeah.
swing,
The other
unplayable.
name that's popping to my mind now is Mohammed Shami. When he reinvented himself, he had nothing to him in terms of pace, but
Yeah.
the guy is still killing it. At 120 k's an hour, 130 k's an hour, he's still taking wickets because of
It's just
that
late
late swing.
movement, quite hard
Yeah.
to play.
Mm.
And I think that's a worry. There's a lot of flaws with South African cricket, and I think the reason why we actually delved into it now is because, as we said, post World Cup, we're back to base. We're like, no, all that very not cautious optimism is gone. So we're back to seeing it for what it is. There are problems, and it's not hopeless because I think that we can solve the problems. It just needs the right approach. And if we go into
yeah,
the
no,
series with the wrong approach and we're starting on the back foot already, it's not a good way to cycle into the next phase, so to say.
yeah. And the thing with Test cricket and with South Africa only playing 2-match Test series, we don't have the luxury that England has over selections and things like that, where they're playing 5-match series. And pretty much very soon, the Champions Trophy hype is going to take over, and then Test cricket will take a backseat for a while. So in the
Yeah.
time that we have for Test cricket, I think you're right. We need to get it right from the start. So let's see what happens. And with all due respect to West Indies, there should be no way that
Yeah.
South Africa should be losing that series
Yeah. No, I
or even
completely
drawing it.
agree. I completely agree. Unless
Yeah.
10 days are washed out, we shouldn't be drawing the series.
Yeah. You might draw one
Like,
game, but you
no
should win the
disrespect.
other.
Yeah,
But
no disrespect to them. But like, as much as I've said that we're in a shit place, they're in a shitter place. Facts. They've got a few players that are decent, that I rate, but I think that we should be doing a lot better. The thing is, as we were saying, like with the death of Test cricket everywhere else, it's the same thing. Like if you put this thing into a general situation and you said you as a Test cricket or you as a cricket board have a choice to make now. you find yourself in a situation where Test cricket is dying, T20 franchise cricket is on the rise and pretty fast. What do you want to do? Do you want to go and say, take ownership of why Test cricket is dying? Or do you want to just say, abandon ship, let's move on to better things? And I think it's pretty hard for them to get viewership back into Test cricket. But if someone really like stood up and said, nah, we're just going to buck the trend, we're going to play more Test cricket, I guarantee you there'll be enough cricket fans from other parts of the world that don't even belong to that country that watch it. Because there are definitely people that are traditionalists that will watch Test cricket. It's just not going to find the same numbers as T20 cricket, which is sad because, yeah, it's dying.
No,
Whether
but
we
you know
like it
what?
or not,
The
it's
longer
dying.
this thing is going on, also, I in the beginning I also felt this is not real cricket, blah 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 blah. But then the more you realize what T20 cricket has done in terms of bringing viewership into the thing, in terms of putting stringent rules, the time frame, getting a game done soon, that's a big thing to now compete with the likes of football, as an example. You can have three
Yeah.
games in one day, four games in one day. Um, you have to look at it from that perspective. You know, maybe they need to do something to Test cricket to make it a bit more relevant and take away that 200-year-old badge that it has. Because what makes T20 cricket exciting? You can do anything. You can decide tomorrow that you want to have this thing like in the Big Bash. They do 4 overs power play, and then you can elect 2 overs in the back. You can do that super sub thing, but if you do that in Test cricket,
No run.
grandfathers start getting an erection. You know what I mean? But true or false, right? True or false? No, this is the
Oh, you
purest
mean
form of cricket. Huh?
the erection dies. You mean the erection dies.
No, but you know what I mean, right? This is a purest form of
Yeah.
cricket.
Yeah.
What do you mean, super sub? If the O gets hit on his head, no, he must sit out and they must bat with 10 people.
I think you can avoid that whole situation of giving grandfathers erections, but still getting finance into cricket. So the big thing that comes with all of those timeouts and everything is there's more opportunities for advertisements. And that's the big flaw in cricket because there aren't many. There's a stoppage at the end of every ball, but only at the end of the over can you sling an ad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Football, because there's so much money in it, ad boards and everything are going crazy. Cool. They make their money. Those Oaks are concerned with your halftime one ad, start of the game one ad, end of the game one ad. If you know people are going to be watching for 2 hours. Now in Test cricket, you could be watching for 2 hours, but when that 2 hours is
Yeah,
problematic,
it's
and I
normally
think
playing
I
in the
think
background. Yeah.
yeah, I think they need to find a way to incentivize advertisements, to incentivize investors
No, but they also need to
to
bring
come in.
relevance to the game. Like they need to bring it into the 21st century and do something wild that they've tried with the short. Remember, even with the 50 over format, right? There was a time
It
where you
was
could
60.
take 5 over power play
Yeah.
in the back end and everyone was doing it in
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
40th
We
over.
could move that
And
around.
then it was like 10 overs a mandatory. Things are adaptable, but I haven't seen something like cool like that. Like, bring a woman into the side or something. Like,
Yo.
bring women cricket has gone far, right? Just change the
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that?
rules, bruh. Like, two women batsmen, two women bowler. Now let's play. Uh, that will get more, viewership than a pure test game.
Look, I think there's only one thing you're gonna achieve by that. You're gonna make sure that the grandfathers get an erection.
But fair.
Exactly, right? So I'm all for. In the beginning, I was the biggest no
Why?
this, T20 is going to be the death of Test cricket. But we need to think of something to make people want to keep their eyes glued to the screen.
It's hard
Mm.
though. It's hard though because especially with new fans, like look when you watching Test cricket, your appreciation of what's going on screen is the skill. You're looking at you could watch 5 overs straight of someone not touching a ball. Literally, bowler bowls ball, keeper collects it, 5 overs straight. The ball swinging around doing things, you're gonna be like, yes, what a spell. A new person's gonna be like, what is the point of this game?
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
this guy's throwing, they're playing catch, essentially. I think it's hard to do it without kind of getting to something like T20 cricket. It's a very frustrating place for cricket to be in because you want I don't know, maybe it's just me being a bit of a traditionalist, but you want people to appreciate that part of the game, like the pure part.
Yeah. The alternative is that, you budget for your T20, what's the word? Hedging your test losses and let it play for the purists.
I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, but not very efficiently. Or I say
Yeah.
we, I mean CSA. So they've cut it down to two test series now for the same reason. All the money is going to come from SA20, and then just play test cricket with the money that we can make.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
best you can do for now.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad, but I mean, I
Mm.
kind of know why. And the more people you talk to, the more people you see watching cricket. Like for example,
All it
Yuli
needs is like
watches
a ricketton.
Yuli watches cricket, right, with me. But when it's like Test cricket, she's over it. But when there's IPL happening or something, she's in it. Like she knows what's cutting because your attention span doesn't have to be long. An hour and a half, go make a cup of tea, another hour and a half, and the game's done.
Mm. Yeah.
All it needs is like a Rickleton score, 200 of 180 balls, and then got a
No,
love
Wow.
for Test cricket there.
and
Yeah, like literally.
that's what made Test cricket interesting again was baseball because we were like,
No run.
and it's working, or it's a play, it's something different.
Yeah, look, I personally, I'm not a fan of baseball. Not because it's not exciting. I think it does a brilliant thing. They're trying to get people watching cricket perfect, but it's senseless at times. That's the part I don't like about it. I
Yeah,
think
no,
the
we
rest
all
of it is
agree with that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I was checking the stats. Like for the last 2 years, I think the top 5 batsmen with the highest strike rates, 4 of them are English. Duckett, Pope,
yo,
Pope, Brook,
probably Harry
and
Brook.
some Besto.
Yeah, but even
Uh,
the OGs like Root has changed the way he played because I remember checking a
yeah,
couple of
yeah,
baseball innings. This all comes in
yo,
and try to reverse sweep the ball first ball. Where have you seen Root do that?
exactly. Yeah, but that's the way it looks. Now, there's a lot of cricket going on, and there will be even more international cricket coming soon. And we will delve into all of that in the episodes coming up pretty soon. India Sri Lanka will be a nice T20 and an ODI series. Sri Lankan cricket's in a bad place, as we said with West Indies, but exciting cricket again. I think Sky captains that T20 side, so you're going to see some exciting things with some young Indian players there. South Africa, after the West Indies Test series, we'll move on to a little bit more exciting cricket again. And then there's a fair bit else going with the various series, like the 100 going on. Now, we haven't done FIFA in this episode because, as you can see, it is one shot, one dot, or two shots, one dot. And we're missing a third, but FIFA will be back hopefully in the next episode, and we'll get back to that. But until then, I hope that you really enjoyed this one. If you did, drop us a like, hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for everything that is to come. You can also listen to us on all the audio platforms that are available. There'll be a bunch of links in the description that you can check out. Until the next one, don't forget to power shot and cheers.